Hello, good morning. We have Lamise here with us for a very exciting training discussing all things paid media and creative strategy. If you're new here, my name is Kelly. I am a co-founder of UGC Pro. I have Shane here, who is also a co-founder of the company. And every Saturday at 10 a.m. PST, we do a live training for free. And so without further ado, I would love to just hand off the mic to Lamise. Just because we're so excited to have you here and all of the value-packed information you have to share with us.
Hey, I'm excited for being back. This is going to be fun.
Welcome back. It's been a minute. I was trying to think about when was the last time that we had you on, and it was too long. That's the answer.
Yeah, but it was I also feel like it went pretty long because I think we got like really good engagement and people were asking a bunch of great questions. And so it'll be kind of cool to see where this one goes as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know you also have been kind of staying busy since we last had you on. I know that you've been working on tons of resources for the community, and just like as a very excited person about these resources, as someone that also wants to strengthen their skill sets in paid media, having like the mindset of a paid media manager, could you even just tell us a little bit about that before we even get started with the training?
Yeah, I think that it's so interesting to kind of see where content creators are pushing. And I've been doing this for about 10 plus years now. And so I've seen a lot of the transitions on the back end of paid media. And I've run ads on, I feel like almost everything, to be honest. So I specialize in Meta and TikTok, or Spark ads. And I've also done Pinterest, Snapchat, Taboola, Native. And it was so funny because I think when I was agency side, we had discussed, like content creators and influencers, that's going to be the next big push for ads. Like that's what's going to do well. It's going to take over. And so here we are, and it's definitely taken over. And just to kind of see the overlap in it. And now a lot of paid media buyers, ones that have never put that much emphasis on creative strategy, are now finding themselves in this, like, a bit of a mess, because that's a huge thing. People don't want to just hire a paid media person. They want to go ahead and hire a creative strategist. So I'm excited because I finally started to put together resources specifically tailored towards content creators so that they could start to understand the data and justify their rates, but also ask the right questions, like the right KPI, like for the KPIs and everything. Just how to request the data from the clients. When clients say that, oh, like the ads aren't working, well, what are you doing to not help it? And so what are these specific questions that you can start to ask them that'll help help that narrative? So
Yeah, that's awesome. Also, it's so true. It's one of those things where, like, kind of how you said, brands don't want to just hire like a paid media manager. They want someone that understands creative strategy. I mean, it's the same way with creatives. Like when I'm sourcing direct response video editors, graphic designers, they need to have a DR background, because it's one thing to be a graphic designer, but it's another to understand direct response marketing best practices. And, as opposed to me having to hold their hand through the process, it's great that they have that understanding, which I think is incredible for the UGC community, because whenever I bring up to a client, like, hey, I actually have a network of UGC creators that I could source from, the thing that I lead with is these creators operate as creative strategists. They understand direct response best practices. And whenever I say that, whoever I'm talking to, it's almost like their jaw's on their floor. They're like, I've never heard of this before. Like normally a creative is a creative, and they leave the analytical stuff to like the paid media team. And it's like, no, times are changing.
Yeah, no, they really are. And so it's only going to get more beneficial for content creators to really try to put on that creative strategist role and start to understand things from a paid media buy. But there are so many nuances from that paid media buy that just kind of needs to be connected for both parties. If, say someone doesn't know very much marketing, or if someone doesn't know very much creative strategy as far as a media buyer doesn't know as much creative strategy, you know what I mean? So we start to see how that affects the performance of the ad overall, but also the MER of the brand, so which is the media efficiency ratio. So it's pretty much like all of the amount of money that they're spending. So it's kind of like the ROAS but inflated. So yeah, so it'll be interesting to kind of see how everything changes and how everything starts to take a turn. But one of the questions that I had gotten asked, and it was on the Discord channel, was about benchmarks. And I just think that it's so interesting that people are like asking about benchmarks, but the brand isn't actually giving that information. Like, that's a huge thing. Like, I can show you guys benchmarks, but it doesn't work across for every single account. Like, that's just not how it works. So like, even if I had,
was it Sam who asked the question? I want to say it was Sam. And, even while you're trying to find what you're finding, it's one of those things where like the more brands I've worked with, and like, don't get me wrong, like early on in your career, you almost feel like I'm supposed to know this. I can't look like I don't know. But it's like, you actually really don't know what their benchmark is, because I've had brands that I've worked internally for where our benchmark when I was brought in was a 0.5 ROAS. So we're looking at half a ROAS because it was post iOS 14 back in like recovery of 2020. And it was, funny enough, Lamise, it was 310 Nutrition. And so when they brought me in, they were like, this is our benchmark and we want to get back to a stapled account. Like, we need you to stabilize it and get us back to a 1X plus. And so what did I do? I was able during my time to do it, but like the benchmark coming in, I couldn't assume the benchmark, because if I had assumed the benchmark, I would have been very wrong. And I also would have been very disappointed with performance if I'm like, I'm supposed to be getting like a 1.5X. It's like, no, you're only needing 0.5 right now. That's how low the bar is.
Yeah, and so it's crazy. So like with 310, right? I believe that was it was lifetime value of the client because it was more of a subscription based. So at that point, it would make sense that the ROAS would be a 0.5 or a 1X, right? But if it's a one-time, thing where it's maybe like an apparel or that's like the only thing I think of off the top of my head that would be a good example. So or like a skincare brand or whatever, the majority of people that go on there, so like, it really just depends. If it's a one-time purchase, then that's it. It's just that one-time purchase. So your ROAS needs to be a bit higher than a 1X, because at that point it's not going to work. But then it's not just, okay, let's make sure that we're hitting a 2X, because a 2X is typically breaking even. But you also want to look at it from the acquisition standpoint and the retargeting, because retargeting is always going to be a lot higher than acquisition. And acquisition is just getting new people. So here's the thing with benchmarks. It's interesting because and Terry had just asked, are there any industry standard benchmarks? Yes, but that's kind of a bit of a scam, I'd like to say. You have to ask the brand for the KPIs. And this is what I mean. If a brand is just starting out, so for instance, last year, the CPA, the industry standard is $18.68 for the CPA. But that's so different. And I run accounts where I'm spending $50K, $100K a day, and our CPA is higher, and that's good, because as time goes on, then that cost starts to go up a little bit. But also, however long someone's running a client, the ad account for, right? Like, all of that data, that's going to be taken into consideration too. Do they have followers, the engagements on the ads? So whenever a new brand is starting out, normally it takes about 2.5 to 3 times the amount of their AOV, average order size value, to get a purchase for, to hit that CPA mark. And so if your AOV is, $100 for easy numbers, they're going to have to spend about $250 to $300 to get their first order. And that seems like that's crazy expensive, but there's no data, right? So you have to start somewhere. And the algorithm has to learn who's going to be your best consumer, who they should go ahead and start pushing those ads out to. If someone's been running ads for, years, and they've spent millions of dollars already on paid ads, then their CPA is probably going to be a bit lower. But it also depends on the product and how much the product is. So I always say the best way to ask is always request from the clients before you guys start their benchmarks and non-sale benchmarks, because they're going to give you that stuff where they're going to be like, okay, cool. Well, I want them to beat, X, Y, and Z. So I'd even ask for the dates. And you don't want to hit Black Friday. You don't want to hit any promotion, nothing. You want just the solid benchmark for that specific brand. And they should be able to give that to you, because you're not asking for something that's like secretive. You're not asking for all of this data. You're just asking for the average non-sale CPA, right? Based on maybe 90 days. And if there is a sale, go ahead and take that into consideration. But you just want to know when you're getting that number, because that's the number to beat at that point, right? And if they give you the sale number, then that's the one that you want to beat, especially if they're going to be running a promo. So does that make sense?
Totally. 100%. Yeah. I feel like another good spot to talk about is like, I feel like the KPIs, we were going to go over it last week, but I think we're going over next week. We're going to talk about KPIs. But I feel like people get overwhelmed on what KPIs to look for when they're starting creative strategy, because, it can be a bit overwhelming. What do you think are kind of like some top of mind things that are easy to win, like in terms of like understanding with your client and apply generally? But what do you think for a new creative strategist to look for in terms of KPIs?
I would request the CPA, the ROAS. I think Sam had asked about the add to cart. So if the clients are going to ask you about that, then I'd ask about that, just get ahead of the game. And then the CTR. And the CTR, I'd also maybe say the CPC, the cost per click. So the cost per click, the click-through rate, the ROAS, the CPA, so cost per action. You could do CPM, so cost per million, for it to reach. And those would be just kind of like the top items. But
again, I'm writing this down so I could put it on a banner below. So CTA.
Sorry. CPA. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, no, not CTA. How did I write CTA?
CPA, ROAS, CTR, CPC, CPM.
Wait, sorry.
I'm going to send it in the chat.
CTA. Okay,
I got you.
My brain is going wild.
Let's do this here. So these are the ones. So these are the industry standard, right? These are the industry standard. So, and this is based on last year, because they're always going to pull the year prior. But so sorry, someone asked. Okay. So here are the acronyms. I swear, I promise I brought them. So these are the standard ones to ask for, but always ask for, again, the brand, what they're getting, because it's not fair for a brand to ever ask the content creator for this if they don't have access to the ad account. I mean, how are you guys going to come up with realistic expectations? Because if you ask a brand, honestly, they're going to be all like, well, your performance isn't doing that good. And you're going to be all like, before I forget, conversion rates. They're going to be like, oh, it's not doing that good. And your whole thing should be, okay, well, what were you guys doing before? And their ROAS could be like a 1x, and they've spent 50,000 plus on paid ads. And they're going to be like, I expected this to get like a 4 or 5x. Well, here's the thing. Kelly's videos tend to do just that. And I know this because I run and I have access to all the data. So I know that if I hit Kelly up for a new video for a brand that I'm just starting out on, even with the best content creator, you're not going to get a 4 or 5x, because it's a brand new ad account. Like, I can't just get someone to purchase. But then the other thing is asking them for their conversion rate on their website, because that is a huge thing that can really shift, based on if your creatives are actually working. You really need to know what that conversion rate is, because if I hired all of the best content creators I have ever worked with, and if they've all done above at least a 3x ROAS, which is really great. and it's a new account, or even it's an account that's been running for a good minute and has maybe even 500,000 spent on there, if their website conversion rate's a 0.5, then I can get as many clicks to your page. Like, we've already engaged everybody, but they get to the website and then the conversion rate's off. That's your fault. That's the brand's fault. And that's something that the brand needs to be able to go through and say, okay, we do need to make some adjustments. And there are things that content creators can ask, like strategic questions that they can ask to help get those answers. So that they want to ask for the conversion rate, because if it's above a 2x, or even like, yeah, if it's above like at least a 2%, then you know that that's actually a solid conversion rate to have for a website. It's a really good conversion rate. And so at that point, you know that, okay, people are purchasing, their website does a good enough story of selling it even more. Like, also, where is the landing page? Are they going to a landing page that makes, a bit of sense, or is it off? So then people aren't going to purchase, right? So there are all these little nuances that that they have to look for to see if they're running a successful account or funnel on the brand's end.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And this kind of goes back to the conversation we've had before on here, Lamise and I, where we've talked about how you shouldn't necessarily do partnerships with brands where it's based on performance of the ad exclusively, because you could have the most incredible click-through rate, but the bounce rate on the website could be insane. Or maybe there's like part of the customer journey where like they get to the landing page, they try to check out, and it like maybe doesn't have the option for like PayPal or Apple Wallet, requiring you to go downstairs, get your purse when it's like midnight, and like get your actual credit card. And like these things are important because it goes back to, well, the creative just didn't work. Is it true? There's a story that these KPIs tell, and it's not necessarily the creative. It's really easy to put blame on the creative, but what actually happened? And, there's a level of kind of like uncovering, or like kind of being like a detective that
you wouldn't solve a murder with no evidence. Like,
exactly.
you wouldn't be like at the crime scene being like, well, I get the vibe that like this was a suicide. So
yeah.
Right?
Like
that's how
case
people
closed. Like, no, there are clues, and we need to find out what this actual case requires. And in the same thing for KPIs, it's the same thing. And actually, it looks like Sam asked a question.
How much of the creative selection process on Meta is done by the paid media manager, and how much of it is automated by Meta now with regards to spend and testing?
Ooh, I like that question. Okay. So the best way to run creatives, should I keep sharing this, or should we pull this off?
Maybe just leave it up for just a little bit, just so if anybody has to, reference it.
I'm like eventually gonna have to look at some of these other notes of mine. But
oh no, you're good. You can pull it if it helps with notes.
Oh yeah, you can take it down.
Okay, let's see. So it's so interesting that has been asked, because it's like the creative process, the majority of the time, like the best way for an ad to for someone to launch an ad, again, just for me being a paid media buyer, the best way that I've found is by doing Advantage Plus. So you want something that's a bit more broader than anything. And so whenever I run Advantage Plus, I do maybe about 10% of retargeting, which is on the back end. So this probably sounds like nonsense to you guys right now. But 10% that would hit retargeting. After that, I would do, I would drop about 5 to 8 creatives within the ad set itself. So we're running, maybe if someone gave us an A/B test, most of the time what I would do, so like what I did for us, I put like 3 different content creators. So they had given me at least 2 different A/B tests. So there were 6 creatives, and I dropped that in, and then I would put however much spent. And then Meta starts to find out which ad. Actually, this is kind of what we talked about earlier this past week, Kelly. So Facebook would start to push out the ads, and it will find out whose ads are doing the best as far as engagement, who's watching it the longest, whatever the case is. And then from there, Meta will go ahead and determine the budget by itself. And I always tell people they want Meta to do that. But one of the things that I've also found is that as soon as it finds a winner, so say I'm spending $1,000 a day, and say it's like my video, Kelly's video, Shane's video, and Shane's video is doing great, it's going to push all of that spend towards Shane's video, and then it might spend $800 towards Shane's video, $100 on mine, $100 on Kelly's. But I know that between the 4 additional videos that it's not pushing spend to, that there has to be another winner, right? So normally I take that ad that's doing good, I can drop it into, I have a best performing campaign that I'm always running alongside. So I drop that in there. And then as soon as that's dropped, I want to go ahead and pause it to see where are the other big winners. And sometimes, and this has happened before, where another account ends up doing really, really well, or another creative ends up doing really, really well and outperforms it. So sometimes it almost prematurely picks, and brands like to be all like, well, it just didn't work. And it's just like, well, how are you moving forward with the test? Because you got 6 videos. How are you telling me that none of the other ones work, right? Now, I understand if they're spending a significant amount, if things have exit the learning phase, then that makes a bit of sense. But you still want to test on the other side of that how well the other creatives can do, because sometimes it takes a little longer for creatives to actually start gaining traction. Yeah, I've never understood why people just don't drop it in. A lot of times, and this has happened with, again, just because these are real life examples. So I've found a winner. Facebook has allocated all that spend. As soon as I paused, I found another winner that ended up outperforming the original one, right? So it really just kind of depends on the media buyer too. But if they're running your creatives by itself and not alongside, so like someone wasn't running my video, Kelly's video, and Shane's video all together, then okay, you could go ahead and just determine that winner and see if there's one within that campaign that's doing good, and then just start turning off the ones that might not be. But they should always check the ad spend and make sure that there are funds being spent across all of the creatives before they say that it's not working or whatever the case is.
Yeah, it's a shame, but it's too often I see coming as like someone who was internally for brands and also like as a creative contractor. It's like they always have a magnifying glass on creative, and I get it, but also at the same time, like there has to be checks and balances for both sides. And Lamise, I know even bringing you on as like kind of that fractional like CMO, when I was at 310, I was experiencing something very similar where every single ad that I was leading creative strategy on with my team of editors and graphic designers, every ad came back and it was, oh, it's just not performing well. It's just not doing well. And it got to the point where I was like 6, 7, 8 months in, and I was just like, I need someone who has the understanding and high level expertise like Lamise to like come and audit what we're doing. And literally within a month, performance turned around. And all of a sudden, every single ad that I was told just didn't work was performing.
Yeah. Funny how it works, right?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, like things are well, and because it works, right? It works when you start to test it the right way, and you just need someone to test it the right way. And sometimes media buyers are just so just focused in on whatever it is that they're doing that they don't start to look elsewhere. So by asking these like specific like strategic questions, then that helps. I think you have brought up another one though. Like that was
from Terry.
See, how do you educate the client about all the factors related to conversion? Oh,
ooh,
okay.
It's a great question, Terry. I can do you want to answer it, Lamise?
You can start. I definitely have some things to say about brand side of it, but go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, when it comes to like educating the client and also just kind of like, I like to call it resetting expectations. whenever I work with a client and we're going over performance, well, one, something that you would think every brand would know by now, but they don't. And it's important for you as that UGC creator and creative strategist to understand and also communicate is, yes, there are times where your first ad is going to be a home run and that's incredible. But also that's not even the main aspect of your job as that creative strategist. It's to take whatever ad it is, whether it performs well or poorly, and figure out iterative next steps based on those KPIs. And I think it's just important. I talk about this in our blueprint. I'm definitely talked about this in our creative strategy course about how it's one thing, again, to have like your first ad perform well. It's a great feeling. That happens with me for some of my clients, but not always. And the real money can be made when you are learning from these rounds of testing. And that client just has to be open and understanding that there will be times where you make that money right away and other times where it requires rounds of iterations and pivoting of creative strategy and communicating that.
Yeah. It really does. Like there are certain KPIs, and that's why I always say request the KPIs from the clients beforehand, because that'll give you realistic expectations as far as like where you should be hitting. So if they're saying that, oh, our average CPA in the past has been, $50 for whatever reason. Okay, great. Now you want to go ahead and beat that. And if you can get that at 25, then that's a win. If you can get that at 40, it's a win. If it's staying at 50 and it has an exit learning phase and they've only spent $1,000, then, there that is too. But I'd always ask them specific questions. I'd always ask them. So like I have like my creative rescue tips, right? Where it's like, ask them for their website conversion rate, because at that point, that'll really tell you, is it the creative's fault? Is it not? So I would just start pointing to like specific questions. Like if they're saying that, because here's the thing, a lot of brands who don't understand, I can't tell you how many CEOs that I have spoken to. I've gotten to work with some great CEOs, right? And I love all of them in their own different ways. And they've all taught me something very different and very beneficial that has helped me in my career. But it's so interesting that even the smartest, the best of all of the CEOs that I've spoken to, they don't understand paid ads, right? Yeah. And there's so many other things for them to have to worry about that paid ads is like the least thing on their list. And a lot of the times your point of contact isn't actually the media buyer. So when the client is asking you, or if the client is telling you that their ads aren't doing that great, and you want to educate them, just start to ask them pointed questions. Hey, what's the website conversion rate? Check their landing page, find out if the website is optimized itself. So you want to check for to make sure that the hero image or wherever they're sending the landing page matches the ad itself. Like, so what's the landing page that they're using? Do they have a pop-up bar, like when they are an email pop-up whenever they get to the website? Is there an abandoned cart flow, right? Because is there abandoned cart flow? Is there press features? Are there bestsellers? Are they telling you why to buy the product when they're going down? Are there reviews on the page, right? All of these little factors like really do like make a huge difference when it comes to paid social. And so, yeah, I think that you need to start asking them these questions. And then again, alongside with the KPIs, because that's, and then always point it back towards the data. It's funny, growing up, I hated math. Like numbers was like not my thing. And now I'm obsessed with data. Like I'm just always looking at the data and I love it, but I see it in such a different way. But the data doesn't lie. Like the data tells a story and it's their website. It's their, it's these conversion rates. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten on, oh my God, there's one CEO and he was a bit insane. But he'd always call, hey, we're not getting any purchases today. No. And he was actually very abrasive, but like, how do you deal with that?
Actually very what?
Huh?
Actually very what?
Abrasive. Like he was just very.
Oh, like, okay. I thought I misheard you. Continue. I thought you said racist. And I was like,
shit.
I was like, you can't just say that in passing. Like, I need more context. That sounds terrible. Sorry, continue. It's very abrasive.
Yes.
I've met a few of them around the block.
Yeah. And he'd get upset, how come these aren't working? No. And I'd get calls in the morning of him like yelling, and he'd just be so upset. And I'm like, well, the conversion rate, I've told you for weeks, months, that the conversion rate is not even hitting a 1%. Like, I got, and I pulled up the data, because again, the data doesn't lie, and you can't argue with me if I just show you your own data. And I go, I've brought 50,000 people to your website, yet only, 20 of them converted, that's not my fault. That's not the creative's fault. We're clearly showing that we have a strong CTR. So we're getting people on your website. It's not my fault that they're not purchasing. Now we need to go back to the drawing board and see what we need to do from the landing page or the website side of things. And then at that point, for that one specifically, we created a landing page because they were like, we don't want to touch our landing page. It's perfect. No, you don't know what you're talking about. And so I'm going, okay, cool. So can I just get someone else to create a landing page? And so I connected them with someone else who created just, again, a third-party landing page that connected. And I told them everything that I wanted in the landing page. And then all of a sudden, it was getting like a 3.5% conversion rate. And I'm like,
let's go.
And so it outperformed his website to the point where he goes, okay, maybe we need to change the website. And I'm like, well, no shit. So it's like, the data doesn't lie. And I love my job because I don't have to go back and forth with clients like that when I just start pointing towards their data. So always ask for the data. And I think that's kind of where I believe creative strategists needs to start going towards. Like, they need to start learning. So like, just like media buyers need to know creative strategy, I think creative strategists need to start learning the data and learning how to move around the data, because that really is going to take them to the next level, and also not get things aimed at you that just don't make sense.
Yes, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. Do we market ourselves as UGC creators and creative strategists, or do we do it separately? So for me personally, I have always marketed myself as a UGC creator and creative strategist. And the reason why is because, at least in my experience, clients have been more willing to pay competitive rates, pushing the $1,000 marker, because they're not just paying for a UGC creator, they're also getting that creative strategist. And for me personally, in my career starting out, I was a direct response video editor. So when they pay for me, they know they're not just getting a UGC creator, they're also getting a creative strategist. So I would definitely market it hand in hand. And then the great thing is, not only can you pitch your clients on creative strategy services outside of UGC, but you can also start to take on separate clients who just exclusively need creative strategy. I do that for a handful of clients, and it's been a great supplemental source of income.
It's so interesting because it's just like, if someone's going to market themselves as a creative strategist, like, you also have to understand that when Kelly does it, she comes with data as well. So people are more likely to pay those higher price points because she's going to have that to back up her rates, and she'll be able to ask these questions. And if she doesn't know, then like, we hop on a call and we go over it. And so, but like, she knows it. And I think last time you had asked me a question and I'm like, no, everything that you're saying, like, you're right on point. Like, and so it's like, she knows exactly what the client's going to ask. She knows how to get around it. And honestly, sometimes it's really the client, if they're open to hearing it or not. Because if you get a client who's just starting out on paid media, or they're a bit more open to learning, they're going to go ahead and take whatever feedback a bit more. If they have an account that they've been running, and it's just doing really good, then they're going to be like, it's wrong. They're not going to want to listen, right? And so you have to understand and know when to push and when not to push. But for the most part, it's like, she knows. She knows, she has the data, like, she knows what's going on. She asks the right questions. So then when she says, oh, I'm a creative strategist, we believe her. I believe her as a media buyer. But there have been people that have come to me, and I've seen some very, very high rates, and there's no data. And and even if they've marked themselves as a creative strategist, again, because of my background, I can tell pretty quickly if the person really is a creative strategist or not.
That is
And
true.
so, yeah, so at that point, it's like you do need to understand a lot of these different factors, because you don't want to call yourself a creative strategist and then when the client is saying, how come it's not working, you don't have the right questions to ask. You also don't know the right big data. And also, Terry just had posted, I think CTR and CPM on the ads is a good emphasis and a good starting point. Actually, you want to ask for the ROAS. You want, like, that would be the first thing. I'd ask for the ROAS and even maybe the ad spend of how much they're spending, because I don't really care too much about the CPM. The click-through rate, sure, yes, but you actually want to emphasize a bit more on the ROAS and the CPA, and then find out the ad spend range, because again, data is very sensitive.
Yeah.
Like, someone's not going to want to just give you their data, just like you probably don't want to show them what's in your bank account, what's your investments. No. Like, you don't want to do that. Brands don't want to either. So you have to be very, creative in the way that you ask for it, and also in a range setting so that they feel comfortable providing that data.
Yeah, that's a great way to go about it. Also, I totally agree with you about, like, it's one thing to like market yourself as a creative strategist, but it's another to like obviously like show proof of it. And like, it's also important to keep in mind, guys, that's not to like startle you off, because like we all had to start in the beginning and we all had to start with zeros, like as far as performance goes, and like having no KPIs to point to or any case studies. But like, that's also where you can, start to build up that experience and be able to pull those KPIs as time goes on. But yeah, like obviously when brands hire me, there's a reason why they're like, all right, well, we have a better chance with Kelly because her case studies show that, blah, 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 blah. She's made this much revenue for her clients since 2017. Whereas, sure, everyone on Twitter now has UGC and creative strategists, but like they don't have any case studies to show their work. And that's like, again, not to discredit anyone who has that title now, but like you kind of need to put your money where your mouth is. And in this case, it's putting the client's money where your mouth is, the revenue you were able to generate for those clients. And it's, again, not to discourage you. It's just more so to just understand that, you might not see immediate results, like to how I've been able to say, like, I can close deals that are over $1,000 a concept. But also as that creative strategist and UGC creator, if you've been coming up with concept ideas, writing the scripts, you were doing the creative strategy portion of UGC. So if you have good performance for UGC concepts you've produced for your clients in the past, that can be a case study if you were able to create some sort of positive result for those clients.
Yeah. It's interesting because I had put out, I had a few clients that just from the luxury space, and they were like, hey, do you have any content creators? So I posted a video and I got a bunch of responses back, which was great. But I also started looking at the rates and what they were offering. And a lot of it's because my clients will ask, like they'll always send me well, not always, but a lot of the times they'll always send me, especially when it hits a certain rate, hey, what do you think? And I have to give them my honest opinion, because if you're giving me like a $2,000 rate for one video with 2 A/B tests because it's unlimited usage or whatever, we could get like 4 different content creators, like 3 to 4 different for that specific cost with A/B tests, and they might actually provide me with data. So that's the thing. It's like you're going to spend $2,000, and then on top of that, we don't know if your ad is going to convert. So now you're telling me that I have to spend $2,000 for your ad because of the usage and everything. And then I have to probably spend another $2,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 to test out the ad. And if it doesn't work, I'm out. But the reason why they also want that unlimited usage is, I promise you that no brand wants to make you the face of their company. Like that is not what's going on. They don't want to run your ads for forever. They just want to Yeah, they don't like, and I'm not trying to be mean, but like when I see some of these 30 days and 90 days, like I tell my clients immediately, I wouldn't do it. I can't do it because I know where their spend is. But even if their spend is high, I know when Black Friday comes around that like I might get a video from Kelly right now, and I know, you know, and if she had 6 months, I can't use that as a UGC mashup for Black Friday. So like they want to be able to plan out their content for long term. And
Yeah.
that's normally what it is. Like they're not going to continue to run your ads for forever.
I know.
Like
The fear mongering of this has been honestly like ridiculous. And it's funny because the only people who aren't afraid of this are the people that have actually been in the industry. And it's like sad because Shane and I have talked about this generally. A lot of this fear mongering has actually come from the creator lawyers because they'll be like, you need your own contracts. You're not going to be able to have another deal with another beauty brand because you signed your rights away. Yep. And it's like, dude, it's not that serious. Like for the amount of creators I've hired since 2017, never once was like, ooh, let me try and get Brianna from Kentucky her rights for life so I can run her ads when she passes away like 80 years from now. And like literally there are creators out there that are like, but they're going to run my ads when I'm dead. And like, what happens if I'm a movie star and I'm famous? That's not fair. And it's like, okay, first of all, unless if you're on track to be a movie star, you're doing just fine.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's like, even if someone wants to do it, then maybe just do like 12 months, 24 months, fine. That'd be so much easier to swallow because at that point, I know that I can run it for Black Friday, whatever, but then also add the renewal fee. And that renewal fee, okay, so here's the thing, right? Again, just being in this industry, I've worked with models from New York, like legit, yeah. They're in Vogue, they're in like runways.
They have management, they have agents, they're represented.
Yeah, they charge for renewal fee, and it's never as much as the initial cost. So if they spent, you know, $1,500 or $5,000 to book them out for a day, they have a year to run with it. Their usage or whatever is like maybe $1,500. So $5,000 to $1,500 to renew for a year is definitely a lot different. So it's like for me to be able to go to New York and pay a model that much money and then be able to run it. And now I'm trying to get a UGC creator and they're stricter than these models that run fashion shows. It's like, whoa, no. But also they're always, and that's also another way that I can tell if someone hasn't been in the industry for very long. They have like 30 days, 60 day, 90 day. Because immediately when I see that, I don't want to argue with anyone with their rates. And I also don't want to tell someone to change their rates like that. I think there was one person who I had messaged on like Discord, and I was like, sis, like we need to change these a little bit, right? But like it wasn't, but she was definitely on the right track. And she also was like, oh, I'm flexible. And I'm like, here's some unsolicited advice. I would consider like moving up your usage rights, but I don't want to go back and forth and be like, if you want me to show this to the client, no, because when the client asks, I'm going to be like, no, I can't.
Yeah. Time is money too. You're like, I don't have time to like change your mind. Like, good luck. But like on to the next. And it's unfortunate, but there have been so many incredible evolutions and nuances that have been created and formed over time because of UGC going mainstream. And it's been honestly so much more good than bad. But like the whole usage rights conversation has honestly been it's been kind of pushing insanity to an extent. I remember talking to a creator and it was like, it's a friend. And I had said, you know, just keep in mind, because she had questions about usage rights. And she goes, well, my fear is, you know, they're going to run my ads long after I'm gone, like passed away. And I'm like, girlfriend, you're in your 20s. Like, first of all, social media is completely different of a landscape from 5 years ago. UGC is completely different than what it used to look like in 2017 because of TikTok. Like brands, they come, they go, they rebrand.
Also, the products change.
Exactly.
Like I feel like how many times is an ad like no longer relevant just because the label's different and the brand's like, well, we can't even use this anymore because we just changed the label or something.
Yeah, exactly. And it all goes back to the fear mongering. And it's just one of those things. And it's like, also, it's not like I'm being biased. Like, yeah, I hire creators, but also I am a UGC creator. And it's funny because in 2022, I remember everyone was like, usage rights, like you need usage rights, don't do perpetual ownership, it's the devil, like freaking out about it. And then in 2023, it was funny because then when 2023 came and I like gave my year in review of how much money I made in 2022 was working 10 to 15 hours a week. I made over $100,000 as a less than part-time UGC creator. And that's an incredible accomplishment. I felt very well compensated for my work and I was giving perpetual usage rights. Are any of my ads still being run today? No, not a single ad is being run. Then 2023 comes and all of a sudden there's been like a rephrasing of statements. Oh guys, I gave away perpetual usage rights and like I got this much more money. And it's like, yes, no duh. If you're offering perpetual ownership, you can charge like a higher fee, but you also like need to find that realistic price range. Like I've offered perpetual usage rights to brands where it was $500 a concept. It was $750 a concept, but it was because also in my mind, like I'm keeping in mind, like, okay, like this is an edited video. It's not raw footage. It has baked in text. It has baked in music. I did provide 3 to 5 alternate hooks. It's in 4x5 and 9x16. So they have so much flexible freedom with it, but I'm okay with it. There's only been one brand that I didn't offer perpetual ownership to, and it was because it was Merit Beauty. And as successful as a company as they are, their budget was so low. And like my friend was sourcing me. She used to work at Beta Brand and then worked at Apollo and then worked at Merit. And she was like, I'm so sorry. Like they have like no wiggle room. And they paid me $150 per concept, but I made them send me $1,000 worth of makeup.
There you go. But see, like if it's a brand that you like though, you're also getting something out of it too. So then at that point you're like, well,
yeah. Well, and
like
I limited the usage rights. I said I'll only give 6 months. I'm sorry. And my ad ended up becoming their number 2 performer for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. But my contact came back to me and was like, you did great. You killed it. You got number 2 for Black Friday, Cyber Monday on TikTok, but Merit still doesn't want to pay. And I was like, okay, well, thanks for the case study. Thanks for the KPIs.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the portfolio work. Thanks for the $1,000 worth of makeup. We're good.
It's crazy. A lot of the times people think that the brands have a lot of money, but it's like if they're going to spend $2,000 for one video, they have to also put ad spend, and you don't know where their spend is. And more times than not, a lot of brands are scared to run on paid ads. So that number scares them. And I think that you've actually have priced out your rates to the point where it's easy for brands to be like, okay, cool, I'll do it. And more times than not, they want to come back. And if not, they'll start to send your info out to other brands because they're like, oh no, this is great and it works. So
Right.
and you build such a great relationship that you can get the KPIs. And then and once you start getting those KPIs, that helps you build that whole thing of you being a creative strategist, because now, again, and even if they want to start adding on additional concepts, that's when it really starts to help, because if you push out 3-4 different concepts within one brand, you can start to see where the drop off is, what videos did the best, right? And start building everything from there. And that's essentially what you want to do.
Absolutely. Also, sorry, go ahead, Cutie.
Oh no, I was just gonna say Kelly and I talk about it all the time, but like the business that we're all in is a B2B business, and I feel like a lot of people don't have experience with what that really means. And a lot of it is like client relationships. Like everything's based around client relationships. Like if you can do something for a client that makes them happy and it costs you nothing, that is not only like increasing their likeliness to stay with you, but their ability to, as Lamise said, like the best way to get more clients is through recommendations, through that network. So treating your business as a true B2B business and like looking up what that means, I feel like will help you immensely if you can just treat these client relationships as gold. And like maybe you lose a little bit of money on a deal that you thought, or like you're nervous about this or whatever, like just think about that preserving that relationship long term is ultimately where you're going to get the most of your money from. So you should always think about like the length of the terms of contract, rather than like I'm super focused on like being exploited or something. you know?
Ooh, I really love that. And you've talked to me about this, and we're including this as a section in our revamped UGC. It's formerly the UGC Blueprint, but it's actually going to be a video course. And so there's actually going to be a chapter dedicated to this because honestly, it wasn't until you said it out loud, Shane, that I really started to realize that that was how I built my business, because I have gotten to a point where I haven't done cold outreach since I want to say like 2020. And my business has grown from two sources. One, by creating my LinkedIn and basically curating it with the proper keywords for their SEO discovery. So I don't even post on LinkedIn and I get inbounds, or through referrals. And I would say 2/3 of my clients come from referrals. And that's because I have really always treated my client relationships as B2B. And the example I gave about Merit was I started working with this brand called Beta Brand. And funny enough, I got the job in the first place because of someone I knew from Mute 6, which is the agency that all of us worked at back in the day. And he knew the CEO. So this guy introduced me to Beta Brand. I start working for Beta Brand. I treat this client relationship incredibly, the same way I treated this relationship with this coworker incredibly. And then someone from this company A starts working at company B, Apollo. This person also hires me here. So not only do I have a good contact here, a good contact here, and a good contact here, I now have a contact at a new company. So I have 2 clients here. And then this point of contact goes to Merit. And then she hires me at Merit. And so it's like, I know it's like kind of a silly explanation.
And
it's
then on
like,
top of that, Kelly goes, well, okay, then I'm going to bring my friend Lamise here.
yes.
And I'm going to bring my friend Danielle here. And then all of a sudden it's like, now it's this huge network. And you can see where, like, because you build relationships, even with people who aren't necessarily your client, but people that are references for situations, like it all works. That's your fastest way to success there.
That is so true. And like, obviously I use Shane for like motion graphics. I pulled Lamise in when where we need a high level kind of like, you know, fractional CMO. And then, yeah, like my former work wife, Danielle, who I've worked with now at like 3 different companies, I always refer her. So it's like, yeah, it's like these relationships that you build with your point of contacts at a company, but also just like people that you meet in the industry. And I guess like it's kind of funny how like this conversation has now transitioned to this, because I'll just give like one more personal story. So I was hiring for Rover, which is, you know, the app, and I hired 2 UGC creators from the community. And one of them was absolutely incredible to work with, and she knows it. Neither of them are on the live, but I had an incredible experience with Creator 1 and an absolutely terrible experience with Creator 2. And I had actually rehired Creator 1 for multiple projects already. And I will never, ever, ever work with this creator ever again. And it's just crazy because it's like you burn a bridge and like all of a sudden, like, not to like,
it was also over like nitpicking on things that didn't matter. Like the reasons were negligible. Like they really weren't.
2 reasons. She was redlining the crap out of a contract, like insanely, like redlining that, like literally the CEO of the agency was like, does she realize how expensive this is going to be for us to resend it back to legal? Like, you're wasting our time. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to source a new creator. And then she finally gave in and signed the contract. And the contract was so basic. It was contained mutually beneficial, like agreed upon terms. And then the second reason was I made the mistake as the creative strategist in my creative brief. It was for a YouTube campaign. And I didn't say the aspect ratio. And obviously we normally film 9:16, 4:5. And so I dropped the ball as a creative strategist. I didn't ask anyone to refilm for free. I was reaching out asking for rates because I was going to pay out of pocket. I wasn't going to tell my client that I messed up. I was going to bite the bullet because it's going to be really hard to resize a 9:16 to 16:9. And her response was like, you're so unprofessional. How dare you ask for me to refilm this content, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, girlfriend, reread the email. I was offering to pay you for 2 projects where you just re-say the same lines again.
Right.
Wow.
I was like, you got burnt before, but like, don't push that trauma on me. Like, I'm paying out of pocket here. This is like, this could be a Gucci bag.
That's so interesting that you say that, because it's just like, yeah, people don't understand. Like, clients don't want to go back and forth with contracts. Like, they really don't. They have to send it to legal. They have to pay for the legal fee. So then you're talking about, depending on what your rate is, you're now talking about them having to spend more money on legal before they even get the creatives, before they can even test it, and then to test out your creatives. And then if you have these strict usage rights, and all of these little things, and I stopped. There's one creator that I'd worked with, and I thought she had created a beautiful video. She did not offer an A/B test. And now I make sure that all of the clients that I like, all of them, it's crazy because normally, like, I didn't even have to ask, like, people just do it because they, just, but here we didn't ask. And I wasn't part of that conversation, the initial conversation, or else I feel like I would have caught that. And they had done the video. They sent it to my client. It was a beautifully done video. And then they sent us with, a watermark, another video for A/B test, and wanted to charge $200 for the additional hook. And I was like, are you kidding? And the client didn't have funds like that. So this was already like, they didn't have like the cash. And all I could think of is, so you legit filmed 2 videos, like, she could hear. The thing is that the client had looped me into the conversation, and hey, this is the media buyer. So they could have asked me, and I have no problem like providing KPIs. Like, and now I'm thinking, oh my God, no, we're not going to spend, about, I think I forget what their first rate was, but I think their rate was like 500 or something, or 400. It was like 400, right? And they ended up wanting to charge 200 just for the first, I think the first 7 seconds were changed. And I was like, no, because they asked me for my opinion. What do you think? Like, this is a great, no, because we could add an extra $100 and get another creator to do it who would provide us with unlimited usage. And 2, because that's definitely, so sorry, the media buyer is the person who runs the ads. So the person on the back end. I'm a paid ads expert, so be called like the marketing expert, but that even if someone's called a marketing expert doesn't necessarily mean that they have paid ads experience. So it's just the person that's running the paid ads. So I'm a paid ads expert. So it was crazy that they had charged that much, but their video, the one that I had originally, launched, it didn't do good. It didn't even hit like a 1x. And so at that point, I'm sitting over here thinking, why would I, try to bite the bullet, pay you an extra couple $100? If the video did really well, I'll tell you right now, they probably would have gone back and said, hey, can we do another type of video, or referred them out somewhere else. But because this person has charged such a significant amount for just another first 7 seconds, I was like, I'm never using them again. It's not because they didn't create a beautifully done video. And that's also not to say that anyone who charges $1,500, $2,000 for a video, or $200 for an A/B test never had someone say, yes, okay, fine, I'll go ahead and bite the bullet and do it. Because obviously their rates are their rates, and I'm sure it's hit a few times. But when it comes to people who actually understand the the art of paid ads, and that's actually in a creative strategist role or a media buyer, a strategist role, that that's not a thing that they're going to do. And that's what really changes the difference. So honestly, sometimes just looking at contracts and rates, it's like, okay, cool. And I'm never going to go back and forth with someone on their rates, because that's not my job, especially when I put out something and I got 40 people, 50 people who've reached out. I also have LA casting. I put out LA castings for things as, okay, this is post-pandemic. Don't hate me for this. But this was also the rate of client, and this was just to get raw footage, whatever the case was. And LA casting, it was $150 to get
for that rate. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, brands have budgets, right? And you tell them transparently, I'll try my best with this budget, but obviously I can't source this creator because their budget, their rate is whatever. But continue. You're totally fine.
Yeah. So it's just and I get that that's low. But sometimes even for models, we would, we're shooting something in office, whatever the case is, they have to come on set, 150. And that is the usage, like the perpetual usage. So, and oh my God, there was one guy that we shot with, and he was like going back and forth with me. Oh man. Anyways, didn't want to sign the contract, but when I had posted this on LA Casting, I had over 500 submissions. So it's like when someone gives me, so again, obviously there are people on here that you look at, and these people are also on track to become like movie stars. This particular person that because Kelly and Shane, also watching both of you guys on set doing your thing together is like just the greatest thing to watch. Like it's just so cool. But like, it's like, because like it's like this new definition when someone says, "Oh, I want like my partner to have my back." Like Shane literally has her back. Like it is just
always.
But it was that shoot, and so that the one individual that one of the models that we had shot was a little bit like about like the perpetual usage, whatever. Ended up signing the contract or whatever, because at that point I just said, we're just not going to use the ads if we can't get whatever, like okay. But now they're on like a bunch of commercials, all this other stuff. They're also the client's not running their ads. They're nowhere to be found on the website.
Exactly. They're outdated.
Yeah, they're outdated. Like they had new products that they want to push. They maybe changed their logo, the packaging's different, whatever the case is. That shirt didn't sell or whatever the case, right? Maybe. But and this person is literally like, I'd seen them in a magazine. I had seen them on like actual commercials, right? And we're not arguing and fussing and fighting about it. So when we push this out for, again, and we're looking for content creators, I'm not trying to say, oh, put these rates super, super low. No, but it has to be realistic to the brand, because even though a brand might have 100,000 followers, you have no idea how like their ads are doing or how much they're spending. And so it's, and you can't really ask them, because again, like, are you going to go ahead and share what's in your bank account, your savings account, your investment portfolio? No.
Yep. Right? Exactly. Yeah, that's so true. Also, kind of going back to what you had said about how that creator that you worked with tried to pull the like, oh, my $200 alternate hook or whatever. It's interesting because this goes back to the B2B conversation Shane brought up, because it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And a lot of this has to do with psychology. So like when I work with brands, I always offer a minimum of 3 alternate hooks. I've literally done packages with brands like Beta Brand. I mean, it's like pushing absurdity, but like literally 18 out of 20 of my ads that year became their top performers and generated over $50 million in revenue. I was providing them between 10 to 15 alternate hooks. 10 to 15. Like literally, I made them so much stinking money. And like, I never was like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I was charging my hourly rate at the time, but like alternate hooks take me like,
if you got $200 per hook, you'd be loaded.
I'd be loaded and I'd be without a client. But it's just crazy because like for my clients that I do UGC for, like my packages it comes with, so I do like a tiered offering for like clients who want to do like package deals. So it's like 1 concept, 3 concepts, or 6 concepts. And obviously the 3 concepts cheaper than the 1 concept, and the 6 concepts is the cheapest option. But the 6 concept one, is it 6 or 3? I'm blanking. No, my 3 concept one. So my 3 concept one is $1,800. And the way that the psychology comes into play is in my breakdown, it says each concept comes with 3 alternate hooks. It comes with obviously all the pre-production and strategy. I'm coming up with the concept idea. I'm writing the script. I'm filming. I'm editing it. I have 3 hooks per concept and 2 aspect ratios. So you can run it on feed and on things like TikTok, Reels, Stories, etc. So they're not really getting 3 concepts. They're getting 18, I think. 3 concepts times 3 hooks is 9, times 2 aspect ratios is 18. So they're getting $100 a video for testing. And all of a sudden, from a psychological standpoint, it's like, that's kind of a good deal. Like this Kelly, she's got case studies, she's got a good portfolio. We're getting a video, $100 a video. Not really, but I mean, when you look at the deliverables, yeah. But it's just so funny because it's like, again, the B2B mindset is so important when it comes to usage rates, conversations, negotiations, etc.
It really is, because it's like, because that's a lot of deliverables. And like Michelle was like, yeesh, that's hard to hear. I don't know what part we were saying when you
I think Michelle was saying it. I'm actually curious. I'm pretty sure she said it in response to that one creator who was being rude to me, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was then.
But all of this also is like is being said to give you guys more perspective of what the brand is seeing, what also a successful creative strategist has been seeing behind the scenes. And so it's almost like we're saying because it needs to be said out loud, but it's also not to try to like nitpick at specific content creators or any of the content creators. Yeah, the rude content creator. But yeah, a lot of it, I feel like when I say at least, oh, don't charge, or again, I don't tell people what to charge, but I'm like, ooh, that's too high. It's not because I'm like trying to get someone to lower their rates. I'm trying to say, because when I look at all of the other, ways, because anyone can wake up and become a content creator and also start just hitting it, because like, again, like there are just certain people who just get it. They just have that, like, I can't tell you how many friends of mine, man, who they create beautiful content, and I'm like, can you please become and I already know that they have never created not one UGC video, but if they do it and I've been right, it's going to crush, right? And so it's like, it's that piece. And then, okay, so you had said A/B testing, and then about how you provide the alternate hooks. And I do think that's extremely important, because I don't push anyone who just does not offer that within their contract. But also then you had said, oh, they brought in like 50 mil or something in revenue?
Yeah. So in 2021, my ads were the top 18 out of 20 of their top performers for the account. And they received, it was close to $12 million in ad spend, but generated close to $50 million. The ads were so good, they left Tube Science.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you guys why you guys can't request a percentage of revenue. Yeah. And okay. Cause thank you. I say this in your percentages, and I love the fact that you have the number and the revenue, and yet, again, Kelly is a legit creative strategist. Like, she's a content creator, like she's a strategist. And so her prices are extremely, I feel like, reasonable, fair. Like, you heard how she breaks down her packaging. Yet she doesn't offer revenue, and she knows that she can make all these clients money. The reason why the revenue thing is not a thing is because for content creators, and I personally don't think it ever will be, is because there's so much that goes into play for them to hit that $50 million mark, whether it's Kelly's creative or not. And Kelly's creative works because it gets people engaged, right? It works, but on top of that, the website has to be optimized. They have to have a good email list. They have to have a decent following. There's so many things that come into place. Also, when you're running paid ads, every platform wants to say this purchase is mine. So someone could, and that's a whole conversation for another day, is attribution. So like, if it's a 7-day, window where someone saw Kelly's ad on a Monday and they purchased on a Friday, but they clicked on her ad on a Monday but didn't purchase. But then they also put in their email to get email, oh, okay, hey, 10% off if you sign up, right? And then maybe they went on Gmail and they had the Google ad that popped up, right? Well, Google is now going to say, hey, that purchase belonged to me. Email is going to say, hey, that purchase, because they use the 10%, like, duh, that's mine. And then Facebook is going to also say, hey, the reason you got this new person onto the website is because of me. See, it's the whole marketing ecosystem that has to work. Yep. And that's why I feel like it's a little hard to go ahead and say, I want a percentage of revenue, because there's not, even if I hit UTM parameters, there's never going to be a clean way to actually pull that out. Also, it's not like they're not hiring someone to go ahead and pay a percentage, because then that cost is more for them. Even if like you bring in revenue and it's not working, they have to turn it off, right? They have to look at what their overall media efficiency ratio is, and that now becomes lower. And Michelle's right, it's a logistical nightmare, and clients just won't do it. That's it. They won't do it.
And Sam, you're so right. Like if we were going this route, it's like every single person would need to be accounted for. And also, you bring up a really good point, Lemmy's, and Shane and I talk about this often. First of all, it's really easy to just like slap on mentor and call yourself a mentor. And I'm sure you're all too familiar with that yourself. But it's really easy to spot someone who really doesn't know what they're talking about when they start to really act as though we're entitled to more money. Because as business coming from the brand side, it's like there are so many factors at play. Like, first of all, Betabrand had spent hundreds of millions of dollars of ad spend on their account to get it to where it is from a learning perspective years before I was ever brought in the picture. Years before. And like they have so much overhead, they have so much liability, they have so many people that they have to pay. There's so many contributing factors as to why a revenue share doesn't make sense. But also, that doesn't leave me feeling like I didn't get compensated fairly. I mean, I don't know that many people who could work less than part-time and make over $100,000 in 2022. And I was able to do that because of the performance I created for Betabrand. I mean, in 2023, they were so happy with my, in 2021 passes by, 2022, they were so excited to work with me again that they gave me an $80,000 contract. And that was a big pushing point to get me to that $100,000 marker. So I felt very well compensated, understanding that I play but a fraction to this big picture of how they're going to be successful as a company. And yeah, it's just one of those things that it's just, and it's not to be discouraged, right? Like there are so many creative ways for us to make money and so many ways for us to upsell. And also just really quickly, since I was talking about it, I wanted to try presenting really quickly my, the rate sheet that I alluded to. Oh no, let's see if this continues. Let me see if I can share it or not. And if not, Shane, I'll send it to you really quickly. Entire screen, share. Let's see. Do you guys see?
No, you need to.
Oh, how funny.
Present in the bottom.
Present, share screen, entire screen. I'm going to text it to you.
Okay.
So you can post it, because I just wanted to show you guys visually what this rate sheet looks like. Just because I had kind of alluded to it. I don't know why it's not letting me share my screen. And then also really quickly, I know that Terry had asked a question. How do you feel about usage rights for 1 year? That's what Lemmy's and I have kind of thought about, is that between that 1 and 2 year marker, it's kind of like that safe zone where it's like the client doesn't see working with this creator as tricky or difficult. It offers enough time to do proper testing. But also it can leave the creator rest assured that, they only have a year's usage or 2 years usage. So let's see, this is my one sheeter that I like to give to just new clients. And what's funny is I actually refer to it as whatever the month it is promo, but it's just my evergreen offering. And so then it helps close the deal. So they'll be oh, let me send you my February promo card. So they think that they're getting a deal, but whatever. So I have my one-off concepts, my 3 concepts, and my 6 concepts. And so if it's just a one-off project, it's going to be $750. But if they commit to 3 concepts, it comes out to $600 a concept, which is $1,800. Or we have 6 concepts at $500 a concept, which is $3,000. But again, what comes with this is 3 rounds of revisions, including concept ideation, script writing, filming, and then also each concept comes with 2 aspect ratios and alternate hooks and perpetual ownership of the ad.
I just want to point out that while she's showing this though, okay, content ideation, what was it? She gives 2 aspect ratios. She always gives alternative hooks, and she's a legit creative strategist. So it's easy because I can't tell you how many times I've sent this out to people. Like, it is easy to push Kelly and for these price points as well. And so if someone is coming to us maybe with, again, the same rates, similar rates, it really just kind of depends, because once you have that conversation with the person, and you go back and forth, right, it's different. But this sheet is like, oh my God, I'm so glad you had created this.
Thank you. And then while we're talking about it, because I agree, Lamise, it's like, just because I can charge these rates doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone, obviously, because I have the case studies that show the return on ad spend that I offer. Shane, if you just want to click the link in the top right corner and just scroll down to my case studies, because that's going to answer another one of my questions, actually, which was, scroll down, there you go, client case studies. So Sam had asked, like, do I have like a template of sorts for like website and portfolio? I have really never like approached case studies as like a specific particular way. I just like to kind of give like a brief explanation, and then I have like a bullet point for like standout KPIs. And then I've also just like featured a positive LinkedIn review. And then like if clients or potential clients ask more, like for more information, I can share it with them. Like at the bottom of my beta brand paragraph, it says performance breakdown available by request, just because like the performance breakdown is a literal like spreadsheet with like spend, ROAS, click-through rate, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, that's information beta brand really wouldn't want me marketing to the world, but that they've shared with me that I will share one-on-one with a client if they want to see it. But this is just kind of like, this is how I've organized my case studies. I'm not saying it's the right way. This is just what my case studies look like right now.
This is also what works, though. So
yeah,
you say that, but it works because it's also, she has data. She has, like, again, just the reviews on there. But also when anyone has a conversation with you, they clearly understand, oh, okay, she knows what's going on. Like, she knows how to package things, and also like just the alternate hooks, man. Like, that's just like key.
Yeah.
Because that really is a difference between it not working and a creative working. I mean,
well, and I think creative UGC creators need to change their perspective on giving away deliverables, because it's within your best interest to offer 3 to 5 alternate hooks per concept and resizes, because it helps the likelihood of good performance. Because if you provide one concept and you throw it at the wall, aka launch it on Meta and hope it sticks, you have a less likelihood of it working than maybe testing 3 versions.
So I'm so glad that you say that. So, okay, from the paid ad side of things, right? Whenever we get a creative, and it just depends on how many brands like that I'm running, how many platforms we're running within a brand. So if we're running YouTube or Google, then they're going to want a 16:9. If we're running Meta, then a 9:16 and a 4:5 works, but then also a 1:1 for carousel ads, because carousel is 1:1. So it's like, if someone offers just like a bunch of different aspect ratios, and I understand that there's like a bit of a shift on the back end that you guys have to do. Also, I've again, as you, Kelly and Shane, both know, I've taken this massive deep dive into Adobe Premiere Pro. That is not easy. But I've figured it out. And one of the things that I think I had harassed Shane quite a bit on was like, how do you resize? No. And I was finally able to get it. And so I understand that there's a bit of work that goes onto the back end. So I'm not saying this not understanding it, because I feel like beforehand, I used to always tell content creators too, whenever I got it, or at least the video editors that I've worked with in the past, like, I don't mind paying if you could just give us that rate, because I know that there's work that goes into it. And I never knew how much or what that was until I started to do it. But it helps, because if someone is running multiple paid ad or multiple platforms, then that means that now they can really test out your ads, not just on Spark Ads and Meta, but they can also run that on Google and YouTube or whatever for a while. and you guys would also have better metrics, but also just seeing those different aspect ratios that we can go ahead and test makes the ads look a lot better, meaning that you guys also have these like beautifully done ads, you know, from all of that work that can also be shown. And Meta on the back end, so yeah, they can do like a 6 by or like the 9 by 16 and a 1 by 1 or a 4 by 5, right? Carousels are specifically like 1 by 1, or else it's just going to go ahead and go in. So if you do a 4 by 5 and it crops it, but it's a 1 by 1, as Shane taught me, then it's perfect because it works for both and it takes up more space on the feed. So like, I'm sure when you guys are scrolling through Instagram, you'd see sometimes there's a video that's a little bit longer and it takes up more inventory, like more space, and that's exactly what we want. So it's perfect. But when you're on Facebook, and you're scrolling and you see those ads of like, you know, the like the carousels or whatever, that video always crops to 1 by 1, always. And so at that point, you know, that's that. But then the newsfeed link ones are 16 by 9. Now, if we have that, great, because we can add that on. If not, fine, whatever. But just knowing that we can have that additional like those additional sizes helps the account. Also makes it a little easier to try to upsell that to a client. So
absolutely. Yeah. It's one of those things where like it does require a little bit more effort. So like just charge accordingly, right? Someone had said, how do we resize, create the same video 3 times? So depending on the editing platform you're using, if it's CapCut, I don't know the answer to that. If it's Premiere, as an editor, it's relatively simple just because you're literally just like duplicating the project file and then resizing it. So that's kind of why we normally recommend that learning Premiere Pro can actually help a lot. So I'd be curious to know what platform you use. And I might not have the direct answer for you since we edit in Premiere Pro, since it's industry standard for like video editors. But if you could let me know what platform you use, we could help. But yeah, it takes a little bit more effort, so charge accordingly. So like for my rates, I feel very well compensated. If that brand does a one-off project, it's $750. But at the same time, that brand can rest assured that they're getting 2 aspect ratios. And I say alternate hooks only because when I have the conversation with the client, I'll say, depending on ad spend, like I'd love to offer like 3 to 5 alternate hooks for you guys. And so that's like more conversational, but they'll know right away that, okay, we're getting anywhere from 6 to 10 deliverables to test for $750. That's close to $75 a concept if they got, you know, the 5 alternate hooks. And then we did have a question come through from Ari, which is, what's the beginning look like for someone like us who wants to get into creative strategy? So based on your handle, you're a UGC creator already, which is incredible. The way that I like to describe it is that UGC creators who've been coming up with concept ideas and writing the scripts have already been operating as a fraction of the responsibility of a creative strategist, which is incredible. So you've already dipped your toe into the water. Something that Shane and I actually just created outside of our paid 4+ hour creative strategy course is we actually have an intro to creative strategy that is for free. So it goes through the intro chapters of our creative strategy course, which is, I believe, like 4 or 5 chapters. It goes up to like, what was it, like page 30 of our deck, Shane? And it's a video course. So if you go to ugc.pro, that's the website, you can actually gain access to that free intro to creative strategy. So that's what I would recommend. And then of course, continue coming to these live trainings every single Saturday, because even if it's talking about UGC, video editing, paid media, whatever it is, you can always bring your questions. And then if you aren't already a part of our free community on Discord, join us there. And we have tons of archived lives on our channel as well. Woo! While we're at it, were you bringing this up to talk about just a few of the exciting things that Lamiz has been up to?
Oh, yes, but I did the wrong link.
Oh.
I'm so sorry.
How is it the wrong link?
Because isn't it that's just your, oh, this is the one I was looking for.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so Lamiz, tell us about this boot camp.
Yeah. So, okay. So I finally have pushed out a boot camp. It's going to start next week, where I take a deep dive on paid ads as far as how that is relevant towards, creative strategists, and it's specifically for content creators. And what it does is I go through, just again, marketing terms, the questions that you're supposed to ask the clients, just KPIs, how to ask them. I provide email templates and everything as well. But it's pretty much so that you guys can start to understand the data side of things, and really put your footstep forward, or take a deep dive a bit more into the paid ads. So now when you're starting to talk to clients and they're saying, well, the ads aren't working, and they're saying that the ads aren't working, then now you guys have a list of questions and you can sound just like their media buyers, in the sense of, okay, well, have you tested X, Y, and Z? I don't go over how to run actual meta ads. I'm actually going to be doing that, I believe, the following week. So that'll be a whole different thing, just because, again, it's a whole different ballgame. But this is specifically to go through and to know what data to request, what the data means, what the most common marketing terms, what that means. Just benchmark so that you guys can understand that upsell services that work within just the paid media, specifically, so that, again, you guys can start whenever you're starting to say, hey, oh, well, this didn't work. Now, again, like the specific questions to ask, what to look for, how to communicate that to the client, the KPIs and how to actually set realistic expectations for yourself and for the client. You can troubleshoot. And when you're starting to say, hey, when you're looking at a price point that is similar to Kelly's, now you would actually have the stuff to back it up, and you can start to reach out to your clients and ask them for the data. I think that a lot of times, because, as we've mentioned on this call and before, we tend to know pretty quickly if someone's a strategist or not. And I think that it's only going to be a bit more relevant for content creators to start to learn a bit more of the paid ad side and what the brands are seeing. So when you're wondering, why are these clients not, why do they say they have a low budget, or why are they, whatever the case is, you start to have a bit more insight. So I take a deep dive into everything that is pretty much related to paid ads, when it comes to content creators. So I think it'll be fun.
Oh my God, it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. This is like something where every UGC creator and creative strategist should be taking this boot camp. Like, literally everyone should be attending this, because one, the only way you'll get to any actual point of success, true success as this creative marketer, is by becoming as well-rounded as possible and remaining a student for your entire career. I literally choose to remain a student. Shane chooses to remain a student. I know Lamise is the same way. Every single UGC creator and creative strategist should be joining this.
It'll be interesting
in this.
I think, and it'll be interesting because it's one of the things that I've seen, and again, just based off of seeing some of the rate sheets and everything, it's people don't understand how to read a lot of the basic marketing KPIs and the acronyms. And so we've already gone over this here, but there are so many more. But you also need to understand why those specific KPIs are relevant. And so I go over that. I go through how to increase your revenue by using data. So now you guys can ask for the actual metrics and know how to position them and position yourself and your rates. I go through how examples of rate packages. I go through client issues with usage rights, and oh gosh, what else? I break down the marketing funnels so that everyone can start to understand what the marketing funnels look like, and how to create, and what videos tend to at least do well. And then you can start to ask specifically for KPIs like the video watch, and find out where in the sales sequence you can go ahead, where people drop off. So then you guys, from the data standpoint, can go through and shift that around to see if you can create a video that keeps people engaged for longer. Kelly already knows that people's videos keep it engaged, or have great engagement and, and they work. But more times than not, a lot of content creators that I've worked with in the past, people drop off within 25%. But if you guys know that data, then moving forward, your next the next video that you create, whether it's for the same brand or a different brand, will just start to get stronger. But I think understanding the data is going to be key for any strategist to really grow in this industry. So it'll be really, it'll be fun and it'll be extremely beneficial. And then the next one that I would be launching is going to be how to actually run paid ads and just to start dipping people's toes into the water of that. And so that will be also a really fun one. But I think that this is going to at least set you up for that one too, because once you start to understand the overall, and again, when you're talking to someone, if your point of contact is that marketing person, now instead of being on that call, not really understanding what they're saying, and then again, just kind of being a bit more shy to ask specific questions, now you'll actually be more empowered to, because you'll have all of that info, all of that knowledge, so that, it just, you can take that to the next level. So yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to enroll and attend. I am so excited, guys. Be sure to do so. Again, it's a business expense. Better yourself, better your business. Sound like the professional that you want your clients to see you as, because the more professional that you sound, the more well-rounded you are as this UGC creator or creative strategist, the more money you'll be able to charge your clients, because they're not just hiring a UGC creator, they're also hiring someone who understands the paid media side. And that is exactly why I feel like I've been able to secure my clients and also full-time opportunities, is because of the, more than just UGC that I bring to the table. Woo, we got someone who enrolled. That's awesome. See you there.
I'm excited to see you guys all next week.
That's amazing. Well, Lamise, thank you so much for joining us today. As always, it is an absolute pleasure to have you here. You bring so much value to the community. And I'm just so excited for anyone else that's able to watch the recording of this and also to attend your boot camp. It's going to be incredible. If you guys don't already follow Lamise on socials, be sure to do so. Can you remind me of your handle, Lamise?
Oh, yeah, so it's just Lamise. And then also, if someone is a bit hesitant about the bootcamp, there also is a paid ads guide too, which I'll probably eventually be putting a pop-up on there, which starts to break this down, but I get more in depth with this in the bootcamp. So I definitely feel like that is the way to go. And again, it's live, so we can go back and forth and you can ask questions. And then, yeah, my TikTok handle is there. And I do have the links and all of that good stuff on there as well. So yeah, I'm excited to see you guys.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. It was, again, a pleasure. And next weekend, we're going to pick up on part 2 of going through the intro to creative strategy. So be sure to join us, and also check out ugc.pro for tons and tons and tons of free resources to take your UGC business and creative business to the next level. Amazing.
Thanks for having me. And I'm excited to see what you guys do next, because man, that UGC strategy course is really going to take people to the next level too.
Oh, thank you. All right. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. Bye.